Hello. Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you're still standing up and walking around, please make your way to a chair here in the auditorium. If you're online, please grab your coffee or breakfast and join right in. So, welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Levitt, and I am a process engineering manager here at Sensata Technologies. And I'm very lucky and happy to be here today to introduce some of our amazing speakers and also to be here to really welcome you. And we're here for Empower 2022, Sustainability in Manufacturing. It is great to see everyone in person. We have a full room here, and really great to see everyone online as well, joining remotely. Thank you. I want to say a special thank you to some of the people who have been key in pulling everything together. So a special thank you to WiM Massachusetts, to WiM Corporate, to Dassault Systems, Sensata Technologies, Evident Olympus, and the Boulder Company. If you have not heard of WiM, then maybe this is your first event, and we're really happy to have you here today. And this is being hosted by the WiM Massachusetts chapter, and we'd love you to join us. So please join us. There is a table outside if you're interested in learning more, and you can check it out during the coffee break or at the end. And then I want to bring you back to these wonderful faces that are up here behind me and highlight these are some of the people that helped plan. And you're going to see those faces around here today. So if you have any questions, if you need anything, please find one of these wonderful people, and they will give you great advice, I can say. And also, we have a sponsor, the Boulder Company, and Ellen is here from that company. She also has a table outside with many resources and information, so please check out her table during the coffee break and at the end of the sessions. So I'm going to go over some quick logistics. For those of you in person, if you need to use the restroom, you can go out this door over here on your right, or that back door, and then you're going to continue right over on this angle, and there's a hallway, and then the restroom is on your right. Also, if there is an emergency and we need to evacuate, you can see there are 4 doors. You can exit any of those doors, and you're going to go right back out the main entrance that you came in today. So I think those are the logistics for in the room. For those of you online, we have Alejandra, who's going to be there to help guide you throughout the day. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A, and she's going to be there to really answer those questions and help you along. Additionally, we have Stephanie Altrui, who's behind the computer. And when you put in that Q&A during any of the presenters' sessions, she's going to pick up a mic and she's going to share those questions with the room. So please put your feedback in there. Please make sure you stay engaged and interactive from the online. We're also really encouraging people in the room to stay interactive, ask your questions, be thinking about them. And please remember, when you have a question, you need to speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear you. So we're going to have a couple mic runners. If the 2 mic runners could please raise your hand. So we have Omar up here and Marcy back there. They'll be coming around with microphones. So if you have a question, speak it clearly into the microphone so that everyone can hear you in person and online. Okay. So now for the agenda, the topics here. You guys have already participated in the check-in and hopefully the breakfast as well. We're doing the kickoff right now. After me is Valentina Vadeva, who's going to give our executive welcome. And then after that, we have Sustainability in Action with Christina and with Shiri. They're going to come up and give you some wonderful insight and great examples of sustainability. After that, we have sustainable operations, the past, present, and future. And that's going to be put on by Kim and Carrie Ann. And then following that, we're having a little coffee break with a word cloud and a group photo. So please stay tuned for information on how to join those. And then our final session is going to be put on by Ellen from the Boulder Company, where she's going to do a workshop, and she's really going to be helping to inspire you to look at the sustainability in you. After that, we have our executive close by Karen. And then, for those of you in the room, we do have plant tours. You should all have been told at check-in what group number you're in. And after Karen's closing, we will have Danielle up here, who's going to tell you where to go for each of those tour groups. So I think those are all the logistics and the agenda for today. And now I have the honor and pleasure to introduce to you one of the most inspiring women I know. I have had the privilege of working with her on our Sensata Insights and on wonderful outreach events like this. And please join me in welcoming Valentina Vadeva to the stage.
Turn this off. You guys can hear me. Thank you. So I feel like Jennifer set some high expectations, so I was really ready to escape, but I will stay here. First, thank you all for taking time from your busy day. I know that everybody has so much to do every day, and come to be here as part of this event and really talk about sustainability. I'd like to welcome those online and those who are here in the room. This is the first time I'm speaking at this conference in person, maybe actually second time in person, but last time was very short. So it is definitely different, and it's not the same being behind the camera and kind of look at the script and saying, what am I doing? It is a hybrid event, so I really want to be mindful of what I'm doing for those in the room as well as those who are online. So I will start the conference here. I'll start my talk here. I will go a little bit off script as I'm still a geek and an engineer and run a little simulation for you, and then I'll return back here. So I will start by introducing myself. And here we go. I do love pictures, so we'll go. Oh, I can't leave this place. It's the camera. Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a walker. So I'm originally from Macedonia, former Yugoslavia, very warm country. We move a lot with our hands. So you think Latin countries, French, the Mediterranean, very similar. We move a lot of objects, and we talk with our hands. That is not in this picture, but you can see me. I am currently the Vice President and General Manager of our North America automotive business and also of our global aftermarket business. I have been with the company for 25 years. I know you guys can't tell, but it's 25 years where I started as a manufacturing engineer right across the street producing products, and I've grown over different roles and responsibilities, different geographies, different markets. My last role was Chief of Staff, the first Chief of Staff, so President and CEO Jeff Cote, who is here with us today. And it was an amazing privilege to have that role and really help drive the strategy and execution as we are transforming the company. I believe in learning. I have a learning mindset and think we all can do more, can be better if we learn every day. The last learning, well, not the last learning, I do learn every day, but maybe the last big bump was I graduated from MIT with the Executive MBA, and I had certificates in sustainability and business analytics as, again, I talked about the engineering part of me, or the recovering engineer in me. And I love marrying love for data with, and business analytics, right, with how do we make a better future. I've always been a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I started, really, I was one of the founding team that started the Diversity, Equity, Engineering Council within the Sensata Engineering Council. And I co-chaired that globally for a period of time as we were building our overall leadership structure. And I do know that our employee resource group, our diversity, equity, inclusion team that now is within HR, and then all of us, because diversity is all of our job, not HR's job, are doing a lot to really have an impact within Sensata, and I've seen that impact over the years I've been here. I also believe that education is a great equalizer. And so as part of that, when I talk about DEI, is also what communities, it's not just gender diversity, which when I was really doing a lot of work at Sensata was that piece, that focus, and that has shifted and broadened over the years. I also, when you look at Massachusetts, there's so many communities where the average pay is below national average. Right? And we have to help those communities. Bristol Community College serves those communities. It provides affordable education. And I talk about my love for sustainability. We also have the Offshore Wind Institute providing education for those who serve the windmills offshore in Massachusetts as we're building the wind power here. And finally, last but the most important part, and what gives me perspective and keeps me going every day, it is I'm a mom, and my beautiful children make me smile. They make me roll my eyes sometimes too, but they make me smile 99% of the time. I'm also a wife, a daughter, a sister, and a friend, and I'm for that grateful every day. I'm sorry, I tried to progress, but that didn't work. Oh, it did. Sorry. So I'll share something. I was trying to be a little more sustainable today. I was print pages of paper and use that as my whoopee, right, as I walk around and look them. And I said, I wear my green outfit today. And I brought my tablet, which has a green cover, and it has my notes on it so I don't forget something important. So I apologize as I walk through this in a new and different way and try to get to be better. I'm a connector, so one of the things that I love to do is I see things and they have an impact, but when you put them together, you amplify the impact. And so for me, Sensata, and the reason why I've been here for 25 years, is that it is an amplifier. It connects these different pieces, and it drives a much bigger impact to our communities and to the world. Our values align to our diversity, equity, inclusion journey. They align to how we serve our communities to have a positive impact within our communities. Our products drive a better future. They're aligned to our purpose as we deliver safer, more efficient, electrified world. And so I'm really excited to highlight that we've started to share that journey with the world. We are over 100 years old, and I believe we have been on that path since we were formed. And we are, as of August 1st, the third site, global site from Sensata that is 100% carbon neutral, and received that certificate for carbon neutrality. Yeah, I do want an applause for that. Thank you. That wasn't me. That was really the teamwork. We do have a great ESG committee, but I'm really excited that we accomplished that. I'd like to talk a little more about Sensata. And so we are a global company, industrial technology. I gotta, again, stop moving. It's very hard. And we are a market leader and very difficult to do products. So that is really what differentiates us from others. We are a $3.8 billion company, 21,000 employees plus globally, and we are in 13 countries. So we are in the cars that got you here today. We are in the airplanes that you take for business or family trips. We are in the coffee maker that you might have used this morning to wake you up. I know I had a little more than I needed, so I apologize for that. And we might be actually in the efficient energy that's being delivered to the office or to your residence. So a lot of different places. I wish that there was a Sensata Inside sticker, but I think Intel took that trademark, so we're going to move on from that. We are focused on 3 megatrends to transform, really, that are transforming our markets. And it is amazing how tied they are to our purpose. We serve clean and efficient. We are providing products in this existing industry and transportation so that industries, industrial equipment, buildings, automobiles with internal combustion engines are more efficient and we reduce the carbon impact. We drive electrification. And again, this is in transportation as well as industry so that we drive a better future. And finally, we are in connectivity so that through data and insights, we can make smarter decisions and again, be more efficient. As I shared, we are starting to share this journey with the world. So I think we are all super excited in what we are doing internally, and then we realize that we really haven't shared that with, I think the communities where we reside know this, but we haven't really shared that with the world. So we have started publishing our sustainability report. If you look at our material topics and what is it that we are really focused on, it is diversity, equity, and inclusion, driving gender and ethnic diversity within our population. It is driving towards carbon neutrality through emission reductions. And finally, making sure that our supply chain is as responsible as we are. So being a global company, it's really important that our suppliers also are complying with responsible sourcing. So I will go to the next piece, and I may even read a little bit here. So since today the topic was sustainability manufacturing, and I thought about this when Jennifer Susan asked me to be the keynote speaker and kick the conference off, and I said, well, what is sustainability, right? It truly means different things to different people, and it is a definition that actually not many agreed on. So I did what every person would do, I Googled it. And the first one is a Wikipedia definition. Sustainability is a social goal that broadly aims for humans to safely coexist on planet Earth over a long time. The second definition was from a more reputable site. It says sustainability is usually defined as the processes and actions through which humankind avoids the depletion of natural resources in order to keep an ecological balance that doesn't allow the quality of life of modern societies to decrease. And so I thought it was interesting, kind of the notion of, is it safe? Is it safety only? Or is it really also the quality of life? And then you think about sustainability, there are a lot of different lenses and perspectives you can take. So something I'll drill down in today is an area I'm really passionate about, and that is how we utilize our current natural resources so that we don't impact climate change. And this is where I will start geeking out a little bit. I'll talk through this first, and then I'll move on. So why is sustainability important? So who cares, right? So what if we deplete the resources? We have accelerated, right, awareness around sustainability and what is happening, and we have already seen the fires in California, the floods in Europe, and everything in between. If we continue going at the rate we are, by 2100, the average temperature will increase by 3.6 degrees. This is a simulator that was developed by MIT, and it's using a lot of data and modeling around carbon emissions based on type of energy we use. And kind of pulls all that data, does different modeling based on different levers we can pull, and provides the output. So this is the do nothing output based on population increase and the current trend and how we use different energies. It's 3.6 degrees. And this is widely accepted by the, right, this is not, I guess, a point of conflict for the world. We can go to the next one. So what, right? What if there is a 3.6 degree change? So I thought, again, as I said, I love pictures. This is a picture of New York City, what it looks like today, and what it would look like with 3.6 degrees temperature increase. Most of New York will be underwater. So will Big Ben, right? That image to the right is a 4-degree change, an implication of that climate change. And as I shared, it's already impacting today. And it disproportionately impacts those who have the least, right? So if I have a lot of money, I'm going to move out of New York to the best place, highest elevation, and all is good. But how many people can't afford that? And the implications on the food and the water sources is just tragic. So now that I got everybody here depressed, I apologize for that. I'd like to talk about, I'm an action person. I'd like to talk about some of the big levers that we can turn so that we change that future. And I'll share with you guys that 4 degree was sitting at 2050. We've done a lot of change over the last 4 years to make a difference. And now we're talking, well, okay, it's great that we think about kids, but how about our grandkids and our great-grandkids? Are we leaving a better future for them? So here are some of the big levers that make an impact. Renewables, right? What type of energy we use. That's, I shared about BCC. I'm passionate about the wind industry. Transportation, and both efficiency and electrification. Industry and buildings, efficiency and electrification. Just for fun, I added methane gas in here, so we can talk about that just a little bit. So I'm going to now, for those online, I apologize, you will not see my pretty face. I'm going to move online and do a little bit of simulation. So please, what's really important is what I'm talking about. Yep. But is that what's sharing? Okay. Now let me just see that I can see what I'm doing. How do I see it here? Huh? Okay, well now. So I'm gonna need my glasses to do this because it's only sharing there. So this is the simulator that I shared with you, and these are all the different buckets we talked about. What's kind of cool is to say, well, if we go with electrification from where we are today, and we electrify every vehicle that exists, what do I do? And I go crazy, right? And so I'm fully electrified. 100% electrification brings that temperature down by 0.2 degrees. Doesn't seem like much, but actually it's a dent. I know I'm depressing you guys more, but bear with me. If I make those vehicles more efficient, I drop another degree. If we go to buildings and industry, so a lot of the things we do here is also improving the efficiency of our heating and ventilation systems. You think about industrial equipment and how well we run industrial equipment. Much bigger drop. If we electrify the heck out of industrial equipment, buildings, I start to make a dent. The truth is we need to make a lot more work in every aspect, in every lever, right? So I talk about the methane gas. If we cut how much meat we eat daily, and I'm not a vegetarian, so I love me a good steak, and this is really a challenge, but I do want to highlight what an impact methane gas has here. And then where a lot of work is being done, so first let's stop cutting more trees, because even if we start planting trees today, it is important but it's very hard to make an impact because it takes time for those trees to grow and truly have an impact. It makes an impact as we start broadening our lens forward, but it is the near term. And then something that in the technological view is, can I find a way to capture carbon? What does that look like as I start to remove carbon? So pull that further down, right? We can really have an impact. There are many other pieces here. You've heard of carbon tax, right? But it's pretty hard to put carbon tax when you have people who disagree on that. So some of the biggest challenges is how much agreement or disagreement there is around making a step and taking progress on this. So enough geeking out, but you can see that, and this is a free simulator online, so for anyone that wants to, I'm happy to share what it is. I do run a workshop with this around having different people be different individuals within industry or the green parties and so on, and using the UN climate change as a way to highlight how difficult it is to make progress. But what's really important is understanding what that is and how each of us can make a difference. So I'm going to stop sharing that and let Stephanie run this because I really don't know how to operate. And I'll come back here. And so I'd like to go to the next one. And so the question is, can I really make a difference, right? It can be daunting when you see what is happening and where things are going. We all are accountable to that, right? We can all make a difference. We can all make a change in what we are doing today. These are things I drew on the page as I was thinking about this. Not printing my presentation was another, and you can see I fumble a little bit through that, but I'm sure I'll get better as my personal commitment about what I'm going to do different today. So I'll ask the team online to think about it and put a commitment in the chat. Writing things down is always a powerful way to say I'm committing to doing something new and different today. And I'll ask the group here to be brave and share what new habit are you committing to do from today? Anybody?
So I'm Susan with the So Systems. One thing I struggled with was bringing these for everybody. I was looking at Rocketbook, things that are reusable, an app that we could download, but then last minute we called Amazon and they saved us. So what this one does, so you have to figure out a way to plan, I think, a little bit more strategically so that you can actually implement your ideas, right? So.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for being brave also and sharing. Anybody else? Come on, guys. It's individual commitment, right? You can tell me I'm going to start recycling today because I really don't always clean my paper and then I throw it in the trash, right? It doesn't have to be big. Everything is big.
Okay. I know for me, whenever I'm at the grocery store, I kind of cringe with the plastic produce bags. So and there's a lot of platforms that offer more sustainable like materials that you can use for going to the grocery store, or like hygiene products using like plastic-free like soap bars, things like that. There's a lot of consumer goods that can help minimize material waste. So that's kind of one that I've been focusing on primarily, but looking to like compost and that sort of thing too.
Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, not on a high horse. I still do. There's so many things I can do better. I try to compost. That was my new one since last Diversity Drives Innovation conference. We talked a lot about ESG, and I started composting, and it's a learning in process. Anybody else? Omar? I think. So, it, thank you. So I do want to repeat for the team online because I know everybody here can hear, but I'm not sure that those online can hear. So it was around reusable paper towels for context, and it's something that I have been looking. So that is definitely one of my sins. My kids eat the paper towels. I don't know what happens to them. They just disappear. And so thank you for that. I will add that to one of the new habits to form today. Anybody else? Thank you. So again, for everybody online, one was using the Thursday as Prime Day. I try to as well. I don't know how we've gotten addicted to this overnight delivery thing and went away from everything being super urgent, right, as we think about it. And then, so using that Thursday Prime Day. And then the second one was shopping locally or having local farm delivery. So the Attleboro Farmers Market last day was, I believe, last weekend. But next year, again, for anybody in the area, we have a great farmers market. Providence one is amazing. I agree. Much bigger, but but I can walk to the Attleboro Farmers Market, so that's my savings. But Providence is amazing. So thank you all. Thank you for sharing. It's really important that we all think, and it takes all of us. It takes all different habits, our individual habits, how we help our family make better decisions, what we can do within our communities. We all have a voice, we all have an impact. And it's hard sometimes because it's always like, let's go do this big bang thing. But a drop of water, you think about the waste it causes. We are that drop of water. Let's use that. So the next topic I want to talk about a little bit is how and why I'm excited about the businesses I lead. Really, really cool. And so Stephanie, can you advance? I don't know if you saw that. My mic is not on? Oh. Paul. Apparently this wasn't as great as I was hoping, so. Huh? Yeah. You can hear me? Excellent. So I talked a little bit about what we can do as individuals and within our communities. I want to highlight why I'm excited about what I do in the business that I lead, in the businesses I lead. And I think you can also think about how your habits can impact the businesses and where you operate. So I talked a little bit about those knobs. 20% of the global carbon emissions are due to transportation, so all transportation, trains, planes, automobiles. Then when you look at transportation, then is 44% of that total, of those total emissions. Our product enables electrification and efficiency for electric. So I'm really excited. Okay, thank you. I will go with my, can I remove this? This is better? All right. I will talk here. I can be loud. I was really trying to be quiet because of the mic. So 20%, I'll repeat very quickly, 20% global emissions in transportation, planes, trains, automobiles, and then 44% of those 20% are light vehicles, so passenger cars, everything we drive every day. The products we deliver in the business that I lead is transforming so that we can deliver all these awesome products to enable electric vehicles. Starting with products that are propulsion agnostic, so we deliver this product to make even internal combustion engine more efficient. So anything from tire pressure management, so making sure your tires are properly inflated, making sure you're safe. Actually, whenever you brake, our pressure sensor makes sure that your brake operates properly. And then as we shift to electrification, rather than measuring force, rather than measuring pressure, we measure force. So developing a lot of products to enable that electric vehicle. We also develop both system battery disconnect units as well as components that go into battery disconnect units that make sure that you're, well, I am on. I don't need my loud voice. To make sure that the battery operates as needed. So it's connected to the rest of the systems in the vehicle when needed and disconnected so you don't have a big boom. It's pretty, it really ensures safe and efficient operation of your electric vehicle. So super excited. We are transforming the business, and our content per vehicle in 23 is twice as high in North America based on that drive. So you go to the next one. So not everyone can afford new vehicle, and if we all went and bought electric today, I'm not sure what the implications are, and that's not in the simulator I was showing, with all the vehicles that would be off the road, their internal combustion engine. So how do we make internal combustion engine more efficient? The other global business I lead is our aftermarket business. And so we can prolong the life of our existing vehicles. We can repair, right? We can even do an upgrade. Remanufacturing allows for less use of materials. And the tire pressure management system that I talked about, even if your current vehicle doesn't have it, the TPMS system can be added. I'll have to rattle and read some facts. I really couldn't memorize them. I'd probably fail high school if I had to memorize a poem now. And these are numbers. So properly inflated tires save an average of 0.6% of fuel consumption, so about 3 psi underinflated. Over 100,000 miles, with the vehicle averaging 30 miles per gallon, that equates to 20 gallons of gas. Now, this may not seem much, but again, that is one vehicle. And that impact, a gallon of gas has 139 million joules. So 20 gallons is 2,780 million joules of energy. So I want to put that in a framework as we all think, and I know I tend to, in the winter, ignore the little triangle on my dashboard that says exclamation mark. And then I think about those facts, and so I am a little more prone now, and it's a shame it took me to really lead the business to get into that. I'm a lot more prone now to go and make sure that my tires are properly inflated. You go to the next one. So to wrap it up, we all have a role to play, whether that is for us, whether that is for our children, our future generations. We each have accountability to ourselves and to the future generations to make an impact and make a difference. This can be using Prime Thursday. It can be shipping, buying products and using reusable containers rather than using the plastic as you walk into the drugstore. It can be switching your vehicle, upgrading your vehicle. There's so many things we all can do. Actually, I don't know if anybody online shares something. If there is, if you don't mind, Stephanie, reading some of those, or Jennifer? I can read it if you want to. Thank you. And so food supply and water supply are hugely impacted, right, by climate change and what is happening in the world. So thank you for that. That is, again, a great suggestion. So we can all learn from each other. We can have these conversations and not wait for a Big Bang conference to have it either. I really, again, I want to say I really appreciate you being here, spending the time, listening to me try to present without my paper will be. Being here, I'm really looking forward to learning more from the rest of the presenters. I'm not sure if we have any time for Q&A. We are done. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah. Hello, everyone. So I'm Susan Lindsay, and I work as the Global User Advocacy Director for Dassault Systems out of Waltham, Massachusetts. And I'm also the co-chair for Women in Manufacturing Massachusetts chapter. And I've been working with Sensata and Val for about 4 years now. So we're super excited to be back again and for your gracious hospitality. It's amazing. And to have the team here make it available both in a hybrid situation. So my job today is to welcome you. If you want to meet with me anytime, I left some business cards also. So if you're interested in women in manufacturing, you can grab my card. We can connect here or in the future. We would love to have you join us. And so right now, I'm just going to introduce our next speakers. We have Christina Gutierrez and Sherry Gauss. They're going to talk about sustainability in action. Both of them are members of Women in Manufacturing, Sherry from the corporate perspective, and also locally here. And basically, Christina and Sherry, join us up here, please. Christina is a technical instructor at PTC over at the Seaport. She's got 8 years experience in various manufacturing roles and a huge passion for sustainability. So she's going to kick off their talk. And Sherry is at Waters Corp. She's a global head of health and safety and environment. She's had that role in various capacities for over 20 years and has also a passion for sustainability. So I'm super excited to have them both here. So give them a round of applause, and we'll let them kick it off.
Hello, everybody. So, Susan, thank you so much for that very wonderful introduction. So, again, my name is Cristina Gutierrez. I am a technical instructor at PTC. I'm also on the board for our local chapter in Women in Manufacturing for the state of Massachusetts. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about how we move toward manufacturing sustainability. So I absolutely loved your talk, but now that you got everyone sad, I'm going to go get them back up and tell them how to make some changes. So what is sustainability in manufacturing? Now, I want you guys to think, because I know we all know the eco-friendly aspect, but there's a lot more to sustainability than just that. So, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce, sustainability is the creation of manufacturing products through economically sound processes that minimize negative environmental impacts while conserving energy and natural resources. So next. So when we talk about manufacturing sustainability, we are actually talking about this in the context of 3 pillars, the 3 Ps: people, planet, and profit. So let's start with the most obvious one, planet. So when we're talking about planet, we're talking about things like air quality, water quality, energy resources, and waste production, kind of the usual suspects. But people are a very important aspect of sustainability. Let's say you have a process that's super eco-friendly, right? You guys are doing everything you need to do, and your company is located here. When I was driving up, I saw that this industrial park is located in a really cute neighborhood. And let's say that eco-friendly process is super loud and no one in town can sleep. It's not a sustainable process because people are going to be beating down your door. So you need to find something that works for the people who you affect as well as your employees. Your workforce is driving this sustainability, and it has to be something that they can do. So it can't create so much paperwork that people can't do their jobs in a reasonable time, or insanely long, unsustainable processes. And then we have profit. We are all companies, and if we are creating any of system that is not financially responsible, it's not going to be sustainable. This isn't charity work. We're not just doing this to go into the red. We want this to be something that can last for a long time, and that can only happen if we really think about it from the perspective of how we as companies can make that change. So things like job creation, making sure that the ROI is there, the taxes you pay or the taxes you don't pay in terms of doing sustainable things, and monetary flow. So let's kind of look at a history of manufacturing. So we're going to start with the traditional manufacturing life cycle, right? We have pre-manufacturing. We, our resources. We make stuff. We use stuff. We throw stuff away. Next, we have the next evolution, the lean manufacturing model. So what lean really focuses on is reducing. So how do we use less stuff to make things? How do we make things in less time? All about less, which is a great start, but we have some more places to go. Next, we have the green manufacturing model. So we all remember kindergarten, reduce, reuse, recycle. Same basic deal. You take some things, you see what you can recycle, you do some reducing, you do some throwing away, and hopefully in a sustainable way. Lastly, we have the sustainable model. So if you notice here, our sustainable manufacturing model, that throwaway is significantly smaller because we are starting from the very beginning of the life cycle of how a part starts. Once it's an idea in your head is where manufacturing has to start thinking sustainably. So we need to design things that will be more sustainable, that we can remanufacture, that we can find parts that we can reuse and sub out, that we can then recycle for as much as we can, so that by the time it makes it to the landfill, it's had its day. It's gone through as much as it could until we used it till it couldn't, and we will be left with less in our landfills. So let's talk about the circular economy. So this is our 6S philosophy. So this is going a little deeper into kind of that last sustainable manufacturing model. So it starts with rethinking. If you are designing a product that you are going to say, okay, it needs to be able to be taken apart so when, the parts of it that have run out, the things that need to be fixed can. Has anyone ever tried to change the crack screen on an iPhone themselves? Yeah, that's not a reusable thing, is it? You basically might as well throw out the iPhone because they're actually designed that way. There's a thing called design obsolescence. You design it so that it fails so that consumers have to buy more. Now, despite the fact that I have my personal opinions on design obsolescence, that's just not a sustainable practice. That doesn't mean that we all of a sudden have to, give up making money. We just have to think about the whole life cycle of a part. Repairing. So back to that iPhone. If it's a part that we can, there are parts that are just not going to last forever because, some material has life. We need to think, okay, when the life of this material runs out, how are we repairing it? What's happening? Does it have to be that material? Some materials are just bad. I live in an apartment that is from 1920, and our homeowners association just had to go around and being like, turns out all of your doors are lead paint. We need to fix that. That was a very used material at one point, and at some point we decided that's not really the vibe. So what we need to do is start thinking, what are the impacts of the materials we're using for when we are repairing? Are there better ways to do it? Replacing. Same, that kind of goes hand in hand with our repair replace, right? Do things need to be replaced as much as they do, or are there other things we can do with it? Reusing. Now, reusing doesn't just mean the kind of traditional, I'm going to just keep reusing a sweater and stitching it up. You can give things new life. So I'm sure a lot of you guys may have seen, electronics recycling. You can, give your old laptops and stuff, and they're considered demanufacturers. You can take that material and melt it down and do something different with it. So reusing doesn't mean presenting it in the same way it's always been. You can take stuff back and then create a new thing, a more practical thing. There's actually a really cool company that takes all of our old COVID masks and they melt down the plastic and use it to manufacture tools. And they end up having this really cool tie-dye effect. So, the handles of like screwdrivers and stuff. So it doesn't have to be reusing in the same way, it just has to be reused. Reducing, obviously, we want to be using less, we don't want to be consuming more, and then our recycling. So I'm not saying don't throw things away, I'm just saying there's a lot more steps we can do before we have to get there. So, let's go through what we can all do. The first step is understanding the process of manufacturing. So, we have to think, where are we in the life cycle of our product? Are we pre-manufacturers? So are we people who provide raw materials? Are we manufacturing a product? Are we a company that is using a product? Or are we in that post-use stage? So the first thing you need to do is identify where you are in your industry, and from there, what you can do. Because how a company is sustainable, it's not like a one-size-fits-all look. It's going to depend on where you're at, therefore what you can do. So let's kind of break that down a little more. So we're going to start with the pre-manufacturing, right? Materials and inputs. So the kind of places you can start looking are things like external pollution, use of non-renewable resources such as fossil fuels, use of hazardous materials, and then looking for alternatives. So one of my favorite materials in the world, I know that's weird to say, but I am a manufacturing engineer by heart, so I have a favorite material. My favorite material is bamboo. Now, why do I love bamboo? Bamboo has very similar material properties to steel. So if you've ever gone to like Asia, for example, I was very blessed in college to get to go to Japan. You can see them using scaffolding like they do in New York, but with bamboo. Now, why is bamboo so awesome? Bamboo is actually not a wood, it's a grass. Even though it kind of looks like a wood and mostly is wood-like, it's a grass. It grows incredibly fast, like significantly faster than any type of commercial wood, like, I don't know, like teak or anything like that. Now, it uses a lot of water, but let's talk about the different types of water. When we talk about water, there's actually 4 types of water: green water, blue water, gray water, and black water. So let's start with what's green water. Green water is just rain. The earth has water, the life cycle, clouds, rain, green water. Blue water is water we have to process, so kind of drinking water, bottled water, etc. Gray water is water we have contaminated but can generally be cleaned, and then black water is usually the like, it will kill you kind of water. So, even though bamboo uses a lot of water, it uses more water than most, we're going to call it a wood even though it's a grass. Even though it uses more water, almost all the water it uses is green water because it just is in environments where it rains a lot and where it is just really humid. So it is using more water, but it's also using less water because we're not actually doing anything. We're just kind of waiting till it rains somewhere in Indonesia, and then bamboo is popping up like hotcakes. So it ends up being a really sustainable wood to use. So things like that. You want to start looking at, not even just looking at the surface of it uses less. It's not just about the less, it's more about the how. Okay, so let's move into our processes. So manufacturing as a whole. Now, this is going to go into, again, your water usage. I believe, and I used to know the number off the top of my head, but it takes about 23 gallons of water to make 1 tube of lipstick. Now think about that. That's bananas. And now you're probably thinking, how? It's not all in the lipstick. It's not like we have the most hydrating, we've all had a bad lipstick. It's not really hydrating. What actually goes into is the process. You use water when you're cleaning out your machines. There's water based in the coolants we use to keep a mill running, right? There is water that goes into producing energy for our company. So ultimately, that lipstick costs 23 gallons. So next we have our products. So products kind of self-explanatory in what are we using, how are we using it. So things like electricity and fuels, waste and other products, and, we're going into, let's say, our, the actual consumer products. And then lastly is the end of our life. So what are we doing when we have our products dead and gone? Next. Okay, so now let's talk about the steps. So creating a strong sustainability measuring process. where you're going to start is set up your sustainability objectives. Now, these are going to be dependent on what you guys are. Select indicators. Specify how you're going to do it. Specify measuring your product. We're going to go through the DMAIC process. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. That's all you need to know about how you kind of walk through these steps. Define your problem. How are you going to measure it? How are you going to analyze it to make sure it's changing? How are you going to improve it? And then how are you going to control it to make sure that it keeps working? So here, and this one, I think you guys might as well just take a picture. I don't really think I'm going to go through all of them, but these are just some ideas of what those things look like. How are you measuring sustainability? So I'll give you guys a moment. Take a picture if you'd like. Continue on. So I wanted to give some examples of companies and what different companies in different areas look like. So I chose the two most dramatic examples I could. So let's start with Adidas. In 2020, they specified that 3 out of their 6 strategic priorities were going to be based on sustainable manufacturing, one of which being reducing the water consumption in their manufacturing process and converting the materials that they use for their shoes into more sustainable materials. Now, I personally love this. I love any fastest way to get me to buy something is tell me it's made out of water bottles. I have dropped a lot of money on Rothy's just because they're made out of water bottles. They're so comfortable. This is not a Rothy's ad. But that's one way. You know, that's kind of the more, I guess, consumer-based way. Now, let's talk about something that's not really a consumer product, unless you are from my great state of Connecticut, where everyone works in some way, shape, or form for the U.S. military. Let's talk about something the Army has been doing. They have been really taking reduce, reuse, recycle to a new level. They have been trying to create a fully refurbished tank. Now, if anyone has had the distinct pleasure of working for an ITAR facility, you know that the requirements are strict. So it is a slow-moving process. I think they have, at this point, been able to certify one part. But it's a start. And it's getting into saying, do we have to continue to make stuff to just throw away? Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Continue on. So, my final thoughts. Sustainability in manufacturing starts with thinking about the product. Once the product is made, half the job is already gone. We need to think from the beginning how we are going to make these things more sustainable. From there, how are we going to create a process that throughout the whole life cycle works for that? And then we need to think from our company, where in our company can we create sustainability? We're different types of companies, so that change is not going to look the same, as we saw from your indicator that there are different ways to do it, but it can be done. The process, but it can be done. And that's it. So thank you guys so much.
All right. So hopefully I will be able to share with you how we can make sustainability move from principles into action. So again, my name is Sherry Gauss. I'm the Global Director of Health, Safety, and Environment at Waters Corporation. Go ahead and move forward, and I will share a little bit of our philosophy with you. So at Waters, we believe we are driven to unlock the potential of science by solving problems that matter. So that naturally leads us to having a sustainability mindset and integrating sustainable thinking and sustainable practices as we collaborate with our partners and our customers to make the world better than we found it. To give you some information on Waters at a glance, we are a manufacturer of liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry, and thermal analysis instrumentation. We also create the consumables, service, and technology to support those instruments. We partner with customers around the world to ensure the efficacy, safety, and quality of medicines, the purity of our food and water, and the durability of everyday products. So chances are, if you enjoyed this morning, or as many of you have cups of coffee with you, or took any medicines, you've already benefited from our technology. Our revenue in 2021 was about $2.8 billion. We have nearly 8,000 employees worldwide, and we have facilities in more than 35 countries around the globe. You'll also see there some awards and recognition that we've received, recognizing our environmental, social, and governance achievements. To show you briefly a little bit about our product portfolio, you will see quite a few analysis instrumentation, as well as separations technology, and the supporting chemistry, informatics, and automation to run those instruments. Those are all used to drive applications focused on pharmaceutical development, food safety, disease diagnosis, as well as material processing and performance. So now that you know a little bit about the company, I want to talk a little bit about our ESG strategy. Our guiding principle is to leave the world better than we found it. So this guiding principle really informs how we act in every way, whether it's when we're thinking about our energy use, or our product packaging, or how we support and develop our employees, or how we give back to our local or global communities. We're always keeping that in mind. And we center our actions around our environmental, social, and governance pillars, again, the 3 Ps. And that makes us focus on reducing our most significant environmental impacts, becoming more representative of the society we live in, and enhancing long-term stakeholder value with good governance and effective oversight. Governance is always kind of the least exciting of those. If you're interested in learning more about our specific programs, our goals, and our progress towards them, we will be publishing our 2022 sustainability report online next week, and it'll be available at waters.com. So today I'm going to take you through 3 examples where we have been able to put sustainability into action in different areas of our company, the first of which is our products. So this is a picture of a Xevo TQ Absolute, which is a high-performance tandem quadrupole mass spectrometer. And I know, that's why I have the paper whoopee, which I apologize for having the paper whoopee, so please don't paper shame me later on. So this was launched earlier this year, and it's actually being used right now with our customers to identify PFAS at very low levels. So for those of you that aren't familiar with PFAS, it stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And these are chemicals that are present in different forms and in many of the products everywhere. So industrial, commercial, consumer products, and much like lead in paint, it is found to be no longer the vibe. And the problem with PFAS is that it breaks down very slowly over a very long period of time, and that allows it to accumulate in the environment as well as in the food chain because it's unable to be broken down by plants, animals, and people. So now it's accumulating. We realize, oh, this is probably bad, and it's led both the scientific community to want to study it more, as well as our regulators to want to start regulating this because we're afraid that it's going to hurt us in the long term. But one of the tricky things with PFAS is that when EPA and state and local agencies are looking to regulate this, they're talking about regulating it in the parts per trillion, which is very small. If you look at similar sort of environmental contaminants, a lot of limits are generally in the parts per million or parts per billion range, so this is significantly lower. And you can't regulate something and you can't enforce a regulation if you can't accurately detect and measure it at those very low levels. So that's exactly what this instrument is able to do. And as I said, it's being used at our state public health lab right now to be able to further study this and detect it and figure out where exactly is it. And that same application can be used in the scientific community as we start to study more and figure out how we might be able to get rid of it in our environment. So that in itself is a pretty good success story. You know, we're solving the world's problems and being part of the solution. But beyond that, as we were designing this new product, we were able to create and add in quite a few sustainable design elements to the design of this instrument. The first being reduced heat displacement. So, you know, big electronic equipment in a lab generates a lot of heat when it runs. So this instrument actually generates 50% less heat than earlier versions of the instrument. So that greatly reduces the cooling load for labs. So that's a good benefit. We were also able to shrink the physical footprint down to a benchtop design. So again, you're saving space in the lab. You can either have your labs be more efficient, put more equipment in them, or you can actually shrink your lab size and your industrial footprint. So that is a benefit. It also uses half the electricity and half the nitrogen of similar instruments, so it's now the most efficient instrument in its class. And we also designed it to use fewer disposable parts, so creating less plastic waste. So when you think about an instrument like this that has a service lifetime of 10 to 15 years, if not longer, the vast majority of the environmental impacts are going to be occurring in that product use phase. You know, Christina touched on that a little bit. That's where the vast majority of these impacts are happening. So when we make all of these improvements, it's helping us at Waters to reduce our Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions, which I think you'll learn about more in later presentations. But it's also passing the vast majority of that benefit on to our customers. So they're able to gain all those reductions in emissions from the lower air conditioning load, smaller lab footprint, the electricity usage, the gas usage, and that plastic waste. So that is a huge benefit for us and for them. So the next area that I'm going to talk about is within our facilities. So some of you may be familiar with our new precision chemistry manufacturing facility in Taunton. We actually hosted a WiM event there earlier this year. So this facility manufactures silica packing material for our chromatography columns. And this actually, the process uses a large volume of hazardous materials. And with those come a lot of safety and environmental risks. So although the new facility was constructed to increase manufacturing capacity and to modernize our operations, we're also able to take the opportunity during the design and build of this new facility to create some significant environmental and safety improvements. On the safety side, we have increased automation and improved our process flows, which has allowed us to reduce manual handling and minimize our ergonomic risks. Because we also deal with explosion risks, each of our chemical processing suites have incorporated safety features that would minimize the impact to other areas if a catastrophic failure were to occur. So that is a significant safety improvement. On the environmental side, we've incorporated quite a few sustainable design elements, which you'll see listed on the slide, and for which we were also able to gain LEED certification from the U.S. Green Building Council. If you're not familiar with LEED, it's essentially a set of sustainable design principles. Some of them are mandatory, so you need to meet that. Others are optional, and they're scored elements, so you have to meet a minimum score in order to gain certification, which we did earlier this year, and we became the only chemical manufacturing facility in Massachusetts to be LEED certified, as well as one of only a handful of industrial projects in the nation that are also LEED certified. So we are very proud of that. Right, and my third example is around our people. So in alignment with the focus of our social pillar, Waters is working to create a talent pipeline that is more representative of the society we live in. And we're doing that by connecting with students from diverse backgrounds throughout their educational journey. So we start as early as middle school, we connect them through high school and even through college, providing them opportunities to experience STEM in action. And one example of this is our Waters Student Academy, which started out as a pilot program in 2021, and we were able to formalize it and expand it in 2022. So this year we hosted students from 3 local schools for 6 weeks over the summer to engage them with learning opportunities within our laboratories, on our manufacturing floor, and with our global service teams in our Milford headquarters. Beyond this, they also gained exposure to additional business functions by having sessions with our Waters IT, HR, and marketing departments. So really got a very good idea and hands-on exposure to what does STEM mean? Like, what on a day-to-day basis does this mean? And as part of the curriculum, they performed experiments where they were detecting impurities in over-the-counter medicines, as well as measuring PFAS levels in drinking water samples. They worked with their mentors to research the problem, to perform the analysis, to discuss the results that they got, and then talk about how that might change their behaviors based on what they learned. And then at the end, they presented to Waters executives, to their team of mentors and volunteers, as well as their school leaders. And at the conclusion of the program, many of the students expressed a desire to continue exploring different areas of science and potential STEM careers. So hopefully we are opening their eyes to new possibilities for their future. Okay, so what are some key takeaways? How can you make something like this happen at your company? I would say first, focus on efforts that align with your company's values. See where the values are, where your company's expertise lies. That's really going to be your sweet spot. If you can align with that, it's going to be that much easier to get buy-in from leadership, to get engagement from employees. And again, that's generally where you've got the highest concentration of technical expertise. So you're going to come up with better solutions. The second is understand the sustainable components of existing or ongoing initiatives. Again, Christina mentioned lean. There's a lot of, like manufacturing efficiency initiatives going on, lean initiatives, even money-saving initiatives. People may say, oh yeah, we're not doing that because of sustainability, but it could still have sustainable benefits. So number one, you want to make sure you're getting credit for all the good things you're doing. But number two is you want to use that opportunity to educate people and show them that sustainability can be very much aligned and really should be aligned with your business priorities and your business operations. Those are going to be the best projects that you can do. So really think about that integration piece. And that kind of leads us into the third one, which is to look for opportunities for sustainable improvements during points of change. Again, this may be like a product redesign, packaging or branding redesigns, facility renovations or relocations. These are already points of change in your company. This change is already happening. Somebody's already defined a project. Somebody's already probably created a project team and a project budget. Take advantage of that. Insert yourself there. Just like we're spending all this money making this huge new manufacturing facility. At some point early on in the design process, somebody said, hey, you know what? I bet if we do these things, we could get LEED certification. It's so much easier to take advantage of those changes that are already happening and try to make them a little bit better. Somebody needs to buy lights anyway. Let's buy the most energy efficient lights. It's much easier to do that than try to create your own program or project way out in left field. You have to create, you have to create the team. You have to try to get the full budget, all that. Take advantage of what's already happening. And the fourth, which is kind of the flip side of this, if you do have a project that's out there on its own, don't be afraid to start small. As I mentioned with the Waters Student Academy, that started out as a pilot program. We have a lot of smaller scale pilot programs going on, and you can learn so much from them. And that's where you really, again, if you've got this kind of outlier project, you maybe have a green team locally or an employee resource group or even a group of employees that are very passionate about sustainability and have a great idea. Use that, start small, see if you can get some small-scaled early success, and then talk about it. You've learned so much. Think about how you can make it scalable. And I think using that small success helps you to expand maybe to a second facility or to a larger, more broadly scoped program. So those are my suggestions, and that's all I have. I think we're running over time, so no questions, but feel free to follow up directly with either Christina or I afterwards. Thank you.
How about now? Yep. So thanks so much. I think that was amazing. I was super pumped up about what Christina had to say, and then to see the real examples of how Waters came together at different levels. It's really eye-opening, and I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And of course, everyone will be here during the coffee break, so I would encourage you to reach out to everybody who's speaking here. So next up is my colleague, Kim. Kim Wilson is from Dassault Systems, and she, together with Carrie Ann McNeil, are going to have a dialogue, only a few slides, but a dialogue on the topic of sustainable operations. They're going to talk about where they've been and where things might be going. And I'll introduce you. So first off, we have Carrie Ann. So I'm using notes, sorry. So Carrie Ann is the head of facilities over at Thermo Fisher. She's got over 10 years experience in manufacturing, including Biogen, and 5 years at ExxonMobil, where she was on oil tankers as U.S. Coast Guard engineer. So I love her diversity and what she's been doing and how she pulls it together. And together with Kim, so Kim, like I said, is at Dassault Systems, where I am. We call ourselves a 3D experience company, and we provide technologies such as virtual twin to help companies innovate in sustainable ways. She is in life sciences and a healthcare business consultant, and she has extensive background also in manufacturing, product marketing, and environmental consulting. So with that, let's participate in this dialogue together with them. Think about what your questions might be, and the stage is yours. Okay.
I think we're going to start with just a quick background on each of our companies. I am with Dassault Systems, and our purpose is that we provide business people with the experience universes to imagine sustainable innovation capable of harmonizing product, nature, and life. And on the far left, I just wanted to point out, we started about 40 years ago, and we did 3D design back then. Some of you might be familiar with SolidWorks, a brand of ours. Then we moved to digital mock-up and then product lifecycle management. We launched the Experience platform, and we were able to do a virtual twin of the city of Singapore. And we're currently working with an organization in France to do the same for the globe. So that will offer some great insights on sustainability, sort of environmental impact. So that's an exciting opportunity for us. And over the years, we've acquired a lot of companies, or we've advanced our company through our research and development group. And we're now focused on virtual twins of products, production systems, and also humans. And if you've never heard of the Living Heart Project, I would recommend that you go and Google that. It started about 7 years ago, and it's quite exciting. And we're moving into the brain and the lung as well. And our goal is to do an entire virtual human so that patient care can be advanced in the future. We've got 20,000 employees in 180 countries. Our revenue last year was just under $5 billion, and 41% of our employees are in R&D. So we're always looking to advance. So on the right, I'm going to talk about sustainability. It is at our core. As Susan mentioned, we are very focused on virtual twin experiences, and this is from ideation into product development, all the way through manufacturing and into recycling. Our climate ambitions are on the right, and on the bottom left, there's a whole discussion about how you can use virtual twins to advance your design and incorporate sustainability into that. And on the right is a new program that we launched this past year, and it's life cycle assessment. And for those that are really trying to make a difference, 80% of your costs of a product come in the design stage. And so you can have a great impact not only on cost, but sustainability if you think about where your raw materials are coming from, where they're being sourced, what are they recyclable, et cetera. All the great things we just heard about. So that's who we are. And I'll pass it over to Carrie Ann.
Why, thank you. So, as mentioned, my name is Carrie Ann McNeil. I am the head of facilities for Thermo Fisher Scientific. Now, Thermo Fisher is massive. 100,000 employees worldwide, 8 business units, 26 business groups. I don't even know everything that they do because they do so much. However, I am a part of their pharma services group, and I work in specialty viral vector services. So I'm right up the street in Plainville. We are a contract development and manufacturing organization, and we actually just finished building out the largest viral vector plant in the world. So right up the street. Hopefully, I envision being there for a while. It's 20 minutes from my house, but also the cures and therapies that can come out of that in the patient's lives. So, but with that, that's a little bit about Thermo. I'm not here to talk about Thermo. I'm here to talk about sustainability.
Yep.
Because I love sustainability. So in the past, Christina brought it up, reduce, reuse, recycle. We have all heard that. We grew up on that. What are some of the things that happened in the past?
So as a kid, I remember recycling
Mm-hmm.
newspapers, cans, and bottles, and we used to compost. We had a big enough yard where you could do that. So I grew up with that. I think it's great that composting has come back into vogue
Yep.
more recently, and I live in a very small town just north of here. And at our transfer station, I always call it the dump, and they say don't call it that, it's a transfer station. They actually have, if you don't have space to compost, there is a collection area for you to do composting there. So that's an exciting add.
Agreed. And even just from, remember when we used to have to recycle paper in one and cans in another, and now everything's gone single stream. We've advanced that we don't need 17 different trash cans to organize things. So another thing in the past is there was always examples of the companies that were ahead. I mean, we discussed the automotive industry and things like that, and they were always the examples or the exceptions. And now I think as we move to the present day, it's almost become standard. We discussed this, all of our building codes have changed. You know, like I just mentioned, I just finished a build out, and 15 years ago, I was not reset or an energy recovery system, or we talked about LED lighting. Those are not the requirements, and they are now.
Yep, which is a huge advance. And I know just from watching companies that, I've talked to in the past, as they build out in the last 5 to 10 years, those building codes have allowed them to get special certification, green building certification, and that's something that people care about. Let's see, who said it today? Christina said it. She said, I will pay more for these shoes because they're from recycled bottles. Well, I think it's not just limited to the newer folks in business today. There are people older that will do that too. But the younger generations do speak with their purse. It's very important for them to have sustainable companies. They are willing to work for companies that are that way. They're not willing to work for companies that don't meet their own personal value on sustainability. And they will buy things that are more expensive if they can demonstrate that they've taken that commitment, because it matters.
I think we can move from the past and talk about where we are today.
Yeah, we kind of have moved
We
that
already
way.
skipped that. So that is one of the things. When I started back at Thermo Fisher, I've been there a little over 2 years now. We had does anyone here, do you guys know your company's 2030 or sustainable mission? Can I just see, I'm sorry to the people online, but there's a number of you in the room that do, but there's also a lot of you that don't know your company's mission, which I suggest go back and figure this out. When I started at Thermo, we had a 2030 goal of reducing our carbon footprint and the amount of energy we were buying with greenhouse gases by 30% by 2030. And in the past 2.5 years, it has changed to, we now have a new goal of net zero by 2050. So we're still shooting for our 2030, but we've also added that higher overarching goal. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot with these companies.
Yeah, and ours have evolved as well, and our carbon neutral goal is now 2040. So there are scope 1, 2, and 3,
Mhm.
greenhouse gas, or, what's called GHG.
Yep.
And so scope 1 is where you have a direct influence. Scope 2 is where you're bringing in energy. And third would be things that are outside of your building. Transportation, once your product leaves, as an example. So we have the scope 1, 2, and 3 goals. So I would encourage you to go to your company's website. I'm sure there is something written there. And it would be good just to familiarize yourself with it. And we're going to talk about, in the future, how you can get involved within your own company on sustainability issues. But we'll table that for right now. Oh, wait, not yet.
So, yeah, so some of the things we're seeing now, reducing the carbon footprint. I'm going to keep going back to the build out because that is what my most recent experience. And I believe one of the presenters talked about building it into the design. So from the start of when I was brought on board in August of 2020, one of the things the project leaders told me is we want to be sustainable. Whatever we can do, we want to bring it in and we want to do it from the start. And I'm proud to say there's a lot of really cool technology we've brought in. There's a lot of cool advancements. We also have a reclaim system. We take that RO reject, which if you don't know what RO is, it's just really highly pure water. So as we get down to that purified level, we pretty much used to dump to drain that water that wasn't good enough. And it was good water. We reclaim some of that as well, and we use it in our toilets. And we also take our HVAC condensate as well and use that in our toilets. So about 9 months out of the year, I don't take water from the city. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, especially for a building that's going to hold up to 600 people. We saved 1.7 million kilowatt hours of electricity in the design. If we had just gone and built to our basic energy code, what we did and went above and beyond, and it's 234 households, that same amount of energy for 1 year, just by things that we brought into the design. So that's what we're seeing now. We are designing it in, and just like Kim said, that's where you're going to get the profitability, is from that first part.
Yeah, so not only for the building itself, but let's go and think about the product that you're making. As I stated here, 80% of the cost, but also the environmental impact is determined at the design of the product stage. So what if you could do what you did with the building of the plant with your product design and talk to, break down the barriers between the different functions in your company and everybody having visibility on what you're making and the ramifications of the decisions that you're making, whether it's a part that could be reusable, like Christina said, or if it's a part that's already a recycled material, you could have huge impact at the end of the day. So you can do this if you start thinking about life cycle assessment. And then the key thing, because I'm an engineer, what you don't measure, you can't manage. And that was brought up before, and I think you were talking.
I think everybody was talking about that because we need to show it. We need to show the proof. Everybody's asking for, the reduction in greenhouse gases, how much we're saving. And to get the support on some of these measures, we need to show it, the financial part of it as well. With all of these 2030, 2050 goals, we have a lot more buy-in from C-suite and the upper level management to get those projects across the board. In the past, it was on the previous slide, but I've always felt like it was the ground up, and now it's a more inclusive environment where from top down to bottom, everybody wants to meet some of these goals.
And have you noticed, I'm going to ask the audience this, that, before it was, you'd get the annual report and there'd be these statements, we're going to support sustainability, and then there really wouldn't be a lot of meat behind it. And now there is. And I think it's because folks have been able to see there's a translatable economic impact, not just for sales, but for profitability. And then lowering cost of
Mhm.
energy, et cetera. So has everybody seen that? Yeah, there's a
Mhm.
big change, I think, over the last 5 years.
So we both come from life science industry, and we were joking when we were talking about this, like, life science industry is actually one of the worst when it comes to, greenhouse gases because of the purity that comes out of it, that I don't necessarily have some of the leeway that
Mhm.
other places have.
Yeah, the regulatory.
Mhm.
Well, and you may not know this, but life sciences has like a 55% worse emissions than the
Mhm.
automotive industry. And the reason for that is the chemicals that they're using
Mhm.
and the flushing that happens. You have a tank, a bioreactor in a pharma facility, and here, we talked about this.
Yep.
Do you wash it and have all that effluent waste that's really,
Mhm.
potentially not salvageable, or do you go with single-use bags? And so you had a great story about single-use bags.
Yep. So our Cambridge site actually, we use Triumvirate, which is a local waste company, but they take all of our single-use bags, they send it to a macerator, they steam sanitize it, and then out pops plastic that we can then use, and they create park benches with it. So it's, it goes back to stuff that we have seen on the slides where we're repurposing that sort of stuff, so that waste isn't automatically just going to a landfill.
Yeah, and there is a tool that's available, depending upon what you're making. Is it smarter, just go ahead and flush, or is it smarter to single-use bags? So you're in this very important viral vector space. I happen to be working in cell and gene therapy,
Yep.
as are you, and that is in high demand. And these, if you're not familiar, these are personalized medicines where CAR T you might have heard of, where a patient that's very ill, that's about to die, will give their blood, and companies that have been approved by the regulatory agencies, they do they grow in a bioreactor new cells, and then they're infused into the patient. And they've had monumental success with this. People that were not expected to live have lived. In fact, one gentleman has survived 10 years, so they consider him cured. The other group that they're working on now is to take basically stem cells from a healthy person and then modify those and inject them into people that have serious diseases like Parkinson's or sickle cell anemia. This is the future of personalized medicine, and it's going to probably be 35% of life sciences biopharma space in the future. So it's very exciting. But these raw materials are really hard to find. And so in those situations, you're making a batch of one right now for CAR T. So do you have a vessel that you need to flush, or do you use a single-use bag? There are trade-offs that need to be made, and life sciences are very behind all these other industries, but there's some unique things going on, and I just wanted to share that in that case, the single-use bag may make more sense, and so there's a way to calculate that.
I think so. So where are we going? Oh, this was a slide. This is what we were talking about, the multiple scopes of the greenhouse gas protocols, where we're looking, scope 1 is what's happening in your facility. Your indirect is when you start bringing in,
Like,
travel. I've heard of companies that they're now their fleet of vehicles are all electric. Love it. And then your scope 3 is where I think we're going to end up going. It's your supply chain, it's your raw materials, that sort of stuff.
and is the company you're working with for
Mhm.
transport out of your facility or inbound, are they matching your goals for sustainability? And I think I met someone from procurement this morning. I can't remember where you are. But that's going to be a procurement topic in the future, because you're going to have enough leverage with your suppliers to demand better sustainability from them as well. Okay. So future, probably the most important thing is to look at the life cycle assessment and the circular economy, where everything, and we saw this on the slide earlier, everything that's put into a product, into your plant, you need to think about how do you optimize that, reuse, recyclability. So this starts with the initial ideation, the design, and it goes all the way through engineering and manufacturing and the build, and then recyclability or end of life. And these tools are available. There's a company called EcoInvent that we're working with. They've been around 30 years, and they have a database on this information that we pull into our platform, and we allow people that are focused on this in companies to optimize the product design and look at all of these factors.
Oh, advanced digitalization. That was another topic that we wanted to discuss because everything is starting to move to be automated. It goes with our lean principles. It goes with sustainability, even to the point where we already discussed nothing's on paper anymore. We don't want to bring our
Here, I have a few.
even in my world, like printing an SOP to make that drug, we still do it. We are quickly transitioning over to e-logbooks and e-SOPs that we have access to while we're in the suite.
And so in manufacturing, there's like 5 levels, and I know most of you are probably aware of it, like the digital plant maturity model. I work with Bioforum, which is a pharmaceutical-based organization where we're looking at, in my case, we're doing cell and gene therapy standardizations across the board because it's such a newer area. But people, so they did a digital plant maturity model a couple of years ago, so there's 5 levels. 1 would be paper all the time. And 5 is it's completely automated, and it's using machine learning and AI to completely modify operations. And people say, can you ever really get there? And I don't know if you can, but we'll see. But if you could at least get away from 1 and move maybe towards 3, where you've got a lot of things automated, lab notebooks, but your maintenance of equipment, things like that, you're going to be much more efficient. So that's happening today, and we know it as IoT and Factory 4.0, et cetera. But that's going to help a great deal because you're going to be able to have better visibility as to what's happening, and then you can make decisions to make them.
Or we even talked about the BIM modeling. I think I have that listed. 3D modeling. Gone are the old days, and I still remember doing this, grabbing a cardboard cutout and walking down a hallway to make sure that a piece of equipment was that flow path that I wanted it to go. It was going to make the corner. Now it's all online, all on a computer.
Although there are people that still do it. There is a med tech company I talked to 2 years ago, and they had a cardboard city in a warehouse. And they were stunned when I was telling them about virtual twins. And they're like, really? I don't have to have a cardboard city? Can you imagine the amount of cost to have a warehouse with cardboard in it? But not everybody's there yet. And so we're making baby steps. And I think you said it well, drop of water. Let's move forward. So I think we've covered everything that we wanted to talk about. So
I don't think so. I want to know what questions the audience might have, if we have time.
Yeah, we may have caught up a little because there was such great information ahead of time. While you're doing that, I just want to share. So some of you may not know about this, but there was a thing called the Montreal Protocol many years ago. There was a hole in the ozone. Well, there still is, but it's not as big as it was. And countries got together and said, this is a problem, and let's work together to get rid of chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. And back in the day, people used to have big cans of hairspray. I think you've seen it in movies like and there was a propellant in there, CFCs. Deodorant was a spray, not a roll-on. Industry uses a great deal. Aerospace and defense, think of NASA and the equipment there. Medical devices that were complex used CFCs. So the world made this decision, and the ozone hole has shrunk. And I do recall that not every product could be cleaned with water or alternative solutions. So there was a stockpile of CFCs that were made for those very sensitive applications where you couldn't do aqueous. And I'm assuming that that's been resolved because it's been a decade. But that's an example of how the world pulled together and solved a major problem. So, you got a question? No? Okay.
Sorry, yeah. I have no idea. Box manufacturers are so focused on their short-term today issue, right? Get enough workers, get it out the door, et cetera. It's hard for them to think for the longer of this is going to pay off in 2030 or 2050. Was there anything that you thought, like, as a message that was really helpful in making sure that your stakeholders got around this idea, got committed, and got that long-term view?
For me, one of the things that I've always used, one, money. I hate to say it, but we are all businesses. So if I can prove profitability, but I always use on the EPA's website, there is a calculator where I can get like fun facts where I'm like, this is going to save, it's going to take 1,200 cars off the road, or this many gallons of gasoline, and it's free, it's online, and giving them those other vantage points. Because yeah, you know, a 5-year ROI or this, but when you start bringing in being like, hey, like I told you guys, we saved 234 houses of electricity a year. And that's almost what hits home. It's taking, you know, giving them something that they can equate it to.
I think that's an excellent resource. The other thing I would suggest is to look at twins. And you can do a twin for a product, a twin for a plant, a twin for a process, and you're doing that on the computer, and you can see improvement very quickly before you implement. And you would get funding once you prove it on the twin. So that, to me, is one of the best tools that's out there today.
So one of the things we're looking at is the attraction of the workforce. All companies are struggling to find employees, and by them promoting what their sustainability plan is, someone had it up earlier, the ESG, that I think is going to be a key attractor for the future pipeline for manufacturing.
So my company, we have an internal assessment that we use for each of our projects. And I'm actually like on our global sustainability team. So, so we're the ones that are kind of the primary mindset behind, you know, designing it. But I feel like there's kind of like a roadblock, so to speak, because it's very subjective to whoever the technical lead is for that project, because it's their responsibility to go through it and determine whether, you know, you should restrict it, whether it's kind of neutral or whether it should be promoted. So it's not super quantitative. And so I guess like my question for you is if you have any recommendations on a way to kind of integrate this, like the modeling and the simulations and how maybe it can be more streamlined, you know, these internal assessments, because this is what we use to right now to quantify our sustainability goals. But again, I think it's very subjective and can be limiting to what degree that sustainability metric actually is reflective of where we're at. So yeah, again, how you recommend, like how you would kind of go about making it more reliable on and reflective of where we're at than just the individual's
In the room.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess it would depend on what the topics are. I am going to go back to the twin because You know, you don't have to own the twins. You know, we have a group that actually does what we call outcome-based engagements, where we use our software tools, you provide some data that you're willing to provide, we run all the solutions, and then we give a report back to you. Or we can collaborate and maintain that for you if you didn't want to buy it on a yearly basis. So you can either engage on a twin, depending on what the topic is, to run that theory to see what the end result would be, which would give you some tangible information to help you with your decision process. That's one method.
I think you have to do data. And that's where the twin comes in. That's where you've heard many of us say it. For a recent example, at my place, we have, again, clean room, sterile. We had single mop heads. Now, a mop head needs to be changed out every 400 square feet, which is, in some of our rooms, we use 6, 7, 8 mop heads for a single room. Well, now we have 6 packs. And just the amount of, we open a piece of plastic, open a piece of plastic, times 8 for that one person rather than opening a 6-pack. And when you have 12 rooms to clean times 8 mop heads one night, or things like that, times 7 days a week, that data will give you numbers that you can then present. And it takes away that personal bias, like what that person thinks. Yeah, you have to have the data.
We're at time.
Val, did you want to say something?
Do I have 1 second? Or maybe 1 second. First, love EPA calculator and the visuals. Second, we use your modeling, and just to share, in one of the latest projects, we saved about 6 months of new product development just by the simulation and modeling and going in the right direction. So absolutely important for us. The last thing, for any company that makes widgets, so there is hardware, scope 3 becomes how our products are being used in the field. So while for marine companies, scope 1 and 2 are big because scope 3 is fairly small, for companies like Sensata, scope 3 is the biggest impact, with our products being 80% close to of our emissions so far. That what I want to highlight is then what is the net impact. So the TPMS system I talked about uses the energy saved is 300 times more than the energy or the carbon footprint it produces. So it really is important as we think about the products, about the net impact, as well as how do we continue to reduce that. So I just wanted to share that a little bit. But thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed everybody's discussion today.
Yeah, I love when people participate.
Yeah, and we're happy to talk.
We
We're happy to
appreciate it.
talk, but I think it's break time.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim and Kevin. Hi, everyone. My name is Vidhi Zala. I am process engineer here at Sensata Technologies. I'd like to thank all the wonderful presenters we had this morning. And we will now take a quick coffee break. Please take some time. Please take a moment to answer the word cloud question that we have. You can go to menti.com, MENTI, and enter the code you can see on the screen. And I think for the virtual attendees, we have the code in the chat section. One-word responses are encouraged. However, if you have multiple words, I would say avoid the spaces in between. One more thing before we go on a break. Everyone who has joined us in person is invited for a group photo outside in the lobby area near the entrance. And for our virtual attendees, we will be back at 10:30. Thank you, everyone.
All right, give your partner a high five or an elbow or whatever you're comfortable doing to say thank you for that first conversation. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Oh,
I
So let
think
me
we're
ask you a
good.
question, because we're having a two-way conversation
Ah,
here.
bummer.
I'm gonna mute. I'm gonna mute.
Can I have your attention? Thank you. Let's talk qualitatively about the conversation that you just had. How did it feel to be listened to without interruption? Unusual, I know. Okay. And what was it like to get like different data points about what the other person heard? Yep.
And you're like, yes, sorry. You know, I'm allowed to feel that way, and it's understandable why I feel that way,
Mhm.
and not feeling like, you know, you're feeling that way for some other reason, and it's like factual almost, so it
Mhm.
validates it.
So there's something in the way of listening that way that validates. I saw a hand over here, and then we'll move on because I'm aware of time. I promise. Go ahead.
Okay. It was really interesting because Christine and I shared our experiences, and we're really different points in our career. I'm 3 years into my engineering career, and Christine is deeply into her career, and we actually have the same anxieties, and we like shared all the same experiences actually.
I love that. When we share what we think is only our stress, and it actually comes out of our heads and bodies, by the way, and into the space in front of us, and we get to speak it out loud, and somebody helps us parse apart what's going on, it not only validates that it's not, I'm not crazy thinking this, and then, like, I can, right? I'm actually inviting support and feedback, and I know I'm not alone in this. How many of you felt like you're the only one in something that's going on in your life at one point or another? That should be every hand in the house, right? When we teach diversity and inclusion, it's a through line. Everybody can identify with being the only one. And the feeling of being the only woman in a manufacturing plant, the only X in a Y, is not unusual, but we think we're the only ones going through it. So can you click? Thank you. And you can just animate all of those. So I'll add one more talking point to this, which is that we all have very particular default ways of listening. Those of us who are more technically oriented tend to listen for data. Those of us who are more people-oriented tend to listen for and suss out feelings in front of data. So we may miss the data that's coming out because we're so locked into the tears, or we're locked into the flushed face, or like we're sensing that so much is going on with the person that we almost lose what they're saying. That's why sometimes talking to somebody on the phone is actually easier than seeing them on video. And, you know, we require video on for all of our virtual training, or we request it, we can't require it. But sometimes it's actually easier to talk to people when we don't see them because we can listen more carefully to what they're saying, because we're sensing beings, right? And then helping them to pull out what's important and what they value can help them to figure out what a next step can be. So we encourage you, when somebody comes to you and they say, I'm stressed out and I'm overwhelmed, get them talking and help them see where the data points are, help them flush out the feelings that they're having, because besides happy, mad, sad, and glad, which are the four that everybody knows, any of you familiar with Brene Brown? Right, her new book, The Something Heart, somebody help me? Thank you, Atlas of the Heart, talks about like 87 emotions that we can feel. And the extent to which we become more familiar with the range of emotions and how we're feeling, the more likely we are to recognize them in others or to ask them if that's what's actually underneath what they're talking about. All right. So we're going to move on to, so I know that this stuff is happening and I know that it's causing me stress. What can I actually do to affect what's happening? All right. So we're going to talk about 3 different levels. You can click. So in the center of this is, what can we control? So go back to the cookie story. Sandy could control whether she made them or not. She could control whether she figured out how to ask Kevin to carve out a couple hours to help her, right? What could she influence? She could influence her office. You can click.
She could influence the people in her office and say, why don't we all give ourselves a break this year and go to a restaurant and bake our own cookies and not some for everyone, right? Like, so she, as she started to talk about it, she realized she had more at her disposal. We all have more at our disposal, not the least of which, and I'm speaking directly to the ladies in the room, is ask for help. Geez, how many of us don't ask for help when it would actually be a blessing to the people that we live with, know, and love if we would ask them because they see us struggling and we don't ask. And they're in that place of, I'd love to be able to help you, but I don't know what to do, and you're not asking and you're not telling. So struggling alone is our choice. Let me say that alone. Again, struggling alone is our choice, and it causes us to be unwell. So let's not do that, okay? The third thing is, what are the things that we can neither influence nor control? This is a big one. The political environment right now, regardless of what side of the world you're in right now, we can't control that. And yet we can activate our emotions every single moment of every single day by scrolling through our news feeds, can't we? So think about how much time you're spending with the inputs, what you can actually control, and then think about what can I release from the worry in the back of my mind by actually letting go of it, all right? And specifically, because this is where you come back into play, is, and they asked you this morning, when we think of sustainability of the external world and what we can control, what are you going to do to sustain yourself? Are you going to make time for the walk? Are you going to establish a yoga or mindfulness practice? Are you going to go out after work and have a few beers with friends? Whatever it is, I see you. Right? Once again, if Brene Brown gives us 87 emotions, there are a million things that we can do to de-stress, but we have to choose to do them and carve out the time where we prioritize ourselves and our own needs to get that done. Right? And I'm saying that to you as somebody with an 87-year-old mother, 2 children, like owning my own company. So this is one of my life's biggest challenges, is carving out time for myself. All right? Click. And finally, this is from a place of power and choice. Not like I have to let go of this because I can't do it because I can't affect the world peace. No, this is like, I'm not going to make cookies because I don't want to. Because I don't want to. And that's a full sentence, by the way. No is a complete sentence. And if you get a why, it's because I don't want to, I don't choose to. Just say no. Right? I was at a diversity thing, actually, a session on diversity at WiM, and somebody asked her, like, what do you say when somebody says something offensive? Whether it's sexist, racist, homophobic, all the ists. She said, I've learned to just say, no, I don't appreciate that. And then let the other person squirm. Instead of her trying to figure out when's the right time and place for her emotions to come down, to go back to that person, to remind them that they said that thing. She's just learned to say no, which I take to heart too. How many of you did that, land with? Yeah, we can learn to say no. Okay, click. So I'm going to have you practice with each other. I'm going to ask you to go back to the person that you just spoke with because you already know each other's stories. So inside of the things that you shared that were a source of ongoing frustration for you, here are some questions to ask. What can you control? Like, what things do you actually have control over in this situation? What can you influence? Who can you ask for help? How can you influence the situation? And then what actually do you need to just release and say, I cannot influence this situation? And then I'm going to ask you to take it a little bit further, which is, what's one action step from the I can control bucket, right? And then I want you, I'm going to say it's time for I will. And I want you to form it into a sentence and say to each other, I will pass on making cookies this year. And say it affirmatively, like inform your body. Stand up straight. Say, I will this thing. It's amazing how saying something outside of your face and then reinforcing it by writing it down and maybe putting it on a Post-it that's on your monitor, so every morning when you sit at your desk, you go, I will meditate for 5 minutes before I start work. 5 minutes, that's not a lot. Okay, that's just my favorite. All right, so I'm going to give you time to do that. You're going to have about 8 shared minutes. So I'd suggest the first couple you just spend thinking about it. And then as soon as you're ready to start a conversation with each other, do that. At about 6 minutes, I'm going to say, okay, come up with an action step and an I will, and then have that conversation, okay? Everybody understand the timing? People in the breakout rooms, you're going to do the same thing. Go. Can I borrow this? Yeah. Can we drag it over here? We started a few minutes late. So what time do I have until? I don't want to run you over too much. Huh? What time did you want to? Well, 11:30. How long do I have?
So 11:30 is supposed to be the end, so it's still 18 minutes.
Of mine? I thought it was 11:15.
I messed up my date.
I think it's before this. It might be before this.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm asking, because we started early. Maybe by like 3 or 4 minutes. But I can make it not happen. Yep. Okay. I'm going to ask you to speed this up. Put it in hyperdrive so that we don't run late. Make sure you write down your I will statements, please. We're, I'm going to invite you to take 2 more minutes. We actually started a little late, but I want to end on close to time. All right. I hate to break up the party here, but give your partner a high five and thank them for their time. So hopefully you had an opportunity. Hopefully you had an opportunity to get through the whole exercise. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap twice. Beautiful, it works every time. Okay, so I'm sorry to cut your conversation short. It's a perfect reason for you to exchange business cards with the person and continue your conversation over coffee, whether that's in person or virtual. The extent to which we share what's going on in our lives with people who have no skin in the game to get some honest feedback and some unemotional, emotional support is crucial. And if there's something serious going on in your life, please get professional support, okay? The team skills, the skills that might help you going forward to help suss these things out are listed on the board. Yep, cancel. There we go. Right? It's risky to have shared what you shared with each other. How many of you felt that a little bit? Like in your sternum, like this is not comfortable, I don't know this person, right? But every time we take a risk and we share what's going on for us, we not only benefit ourselves, but we benefit the other person who may hear part of what's going on for you in their story, or hear their story in what you're saying, right? That's how we generate allyship in organizations, is we share what's going on, good and challenging, right? We celebrate each other's wins. We support each other's challenges. And when somebody fails, we pick them up. We say, that's not you, that's what happened. You're not a failure. That thing may not have worked really well, right? And we keep going together. The extent to which we do that, this is what, to me, that's the essence of what Women in Manufacturing does as an organization. It gives you a support network to try stuff out, to have conversations that are challenging, to get better at speaking up, to get better at speaking out, to get better at projecting your voice and standing taller and being smarter and lifting each other up as women in industry, because there are not enough women in industry yet, correct? The way that you influence that is by creating a climate where women can thrive, where everyone can thrive. This isn't just about women. This is like when our environment gets better for women, it gets better for everyone. In global nations that suffer, when we get women access to jobs that create money, that create education for their children, lives get better. It's the same thing within our corporations. When we build stronger networks of humans working together, we all benefit from that, yeah? And that's less stressful than going into places full of toxicity and challenges. So whether your challenge you talked about was workplace related or life related, we don't walk through the door and leave our lives behind us. There's no magical door at the workplace. And there's one last thing I want to leave you with. You can click forward in the slide. We have a couple opportunities. This is not a commercial for Boulder, I promise, where you can continue to stay engaged in this community through Boulder Company. We have once a month, we have this thing called a Boulder Jam, which is just a ridiculous half hour where you get on, you do an exercise, and then you talk with someone you've never met about what that might mean in your workplace. And then we've started a podcast. It's a couple of episodes. It'll get better next year, I promise. The final thing I want to leave you with is this statement, that boundaries are actions or inactions that I choose, that either keep me free or not. Boundaries are actions or inactions that I choose that keep me free or not. So I encourage you to talk with each other. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to WiM. Have fun on your tours. I don't know if we have time for questions. I don't think so. Oh, we can do one question. What's one question? Question? Comment? Yes.
Hi. So I have a challenge, I guess, with like I'll call it rumination, when something is challenging at work, and I don't leave it at work. I ruminate over it
Mhm.
as I'm going throughout my night or something. Any advice, like, to turn that off?
Anybody else have a busy brain? Busy brains, busy brains. I usually sit in front of the TV with my phone and scroll endlessly so that I don't re-engage my brain. It's not a good practice. Don't do that, okay? Learning how to do things like square breathing, which is breathing in for a count of 4, holding at the top, exhaling, coming back to rest, and doing that for 3 or 4 minutes regulates your central nervous system and tells your body all is well. And if you notice yourself drifting there again, just start it again. If you can learn how to return to breath, this is a commercial for meditation, by the way. If you can learn how to return to breath, all of that rumination slows itself down, and maybe you can parse apart the things you can control, right? Use this, what can I control here? What can I influence? Maybe what data don't I have? What information is missing? Who can I align to help or support me? Who's done this before that might help me to understand the process through which I can resolve this, right? I don't know the nature of your question or the thing you're ruminating, but it could just be work. And it's a boundary, like you could work how many of you could work all day and evening? It's probably everybody in this room. You could take your laptop, crack it open at night, get rid of the 15,000 emails in your inbox. That might just be me. Right? How many of you have 0 inboxes? I hate you a little, okay? So anyway, give yourselves a break. Those kinds of things, slowing down, walking in nature. Walking in nature is really critical. I read somewhere that just walking in nature, as you're walking, your eyes are scanning, right? Which slows your brain down and tells your brain to something else to look at, because our brains are not dual processors. If we're looking and scanning our environment and looking at the trees and feeling the breeze, we can't easily be thinking about the thing that we're ruminating on, but sitting in one place. Right? Okay. Sure. She needs a mic.
Keep going in that box, and that box goes round and round. And so for me, just because of the way I am, I would take, I think, your questions that you did in this exercise, and I would maybe take a few minutes to analyze what I'm thinking about and writing it down, and then stick it on my wall until the morning, because then it's out of my head and on the paper.
Thank you. Susan, I think that's an excellent point. If you dive into your own problem, asking what are the facts, right? What am I feeling? What are my intentions? And what do I really want to happen here? You may be able to pull apart more that you can control, first of all, or influence, right? It gives you a little bit, it calms the space. Once it's outside your head, right? Get it out of your head is definitely a thing, whether it's to another person or it's on paper. Thank you, that was excellent. What else? The genius is always in the room, by the way.
Awesome. I think we're going to need to wrap it up.
All right. I'll be at the table out there afterwards if anyone
Yes.
wants to chat.
Yes.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Awesome. Okay. So we are in the other meeting, I think. But wow, what an amazing lineup we had today. I don't know about you, but I'm extremely inspired. Sustainability is very, very close and dear to my heart. It's something I have always been passionate about my entire life. And so to really have everyone here, bring everyone together, like it means so much to me personally, and also to all of the planners and all of you here today. And so it's just been wonderful to see everyone here. I do want to give another thank you to WiM for helping to sponsor this. And yes. And a thank you to WiM's Massachusetts chapter. I know Susan's here in the room. She has been critical. She was the one that pulled all these speakers together. And I know I saw Miriam earlier today in the room. Thank you for helping pull everything together. And I know we have some SADA folks in the room that helped with planning. If you guys can all just wave your hands and, really thank you. So also a thank you to all of the attendees, all of you in person, all of you on Teams joining us. We could not have this without all of you here, and it's inspiring to see the passion and energy that everyone has brought to this conference. Now, I couldn't tell, did I get the thumbs up from, awesome. Okay, so we are gonna be moving over to Karen Smith, and I think Susan is gonna come join me up here. But basically, Karen Smith is going to be doing our executive close, so she's going to share a recap. For those of you who are joining us online, that's going to be the end of today's conference for you, so feel free to jump off after Karen gives her wonderful remarks. For those of you in the room, I know a lot of you have signed up for plant tours, so we're going to have our volunteers that are going to be leading you around are going to be joining us here in the room, and we'll get you sent off on your tours. And Danielle is going to be the one that's going to be leading that and pulling you all together. So the last time you're going to hear from me, I really appreciate having you all here, and I'm going to pass the mic to Susan.
Thank you. So everybody, Jennifer is very humble. She came all the way from Florida. She's been managing this for Sensata since months and months. And she's been our magician behind the scenes for 4 years now. So everyone, without Jennifer, you all wouldn't be here. So please give her a round of applause. And so with that, I'd like to introduce, is Karen online?
Yes,
I'd like to, hey Karen. So Karen couldn't be with us today, but Karen has been with us for 4 years actually, with Olympus, which is now Evident. She's been with manufacturing since 1987. She's now the president over at Evident out of Waltham, leading global operations and such for years and years, but now the president of Evident's industrial division. So I would love to introduce you to her as I just did, but I'm sorry. Now I want to introduce you to her remotely so that she can share her closing remarks and experience on what we did today. Thanks, Karen, for being with us.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes, it sounds like yes. And
yep.
Hopefully you can see me. I don't know. Supposedly you might be able to see me. I have my camera on if that's possible, but it's a great pleasure to be here. It's truly amazing. Actually, from a technology perspective, I am so impressed on how you could manage all this. I guess Jennifer and everyone who was doing the IT part, we could definitely take some tips. This was an amazing multimedia event, and I cannot believe how well it has gone with people like me being remote and others being in person. Really, really extremely well done. I know I'm supposed to wrap up by 11:30, which is 1 minute from now, so I might be a couple minutes longer than that, but so give me a second. It's a huge pleasure for me to be here just to give some closing remarks. I guess after listening to all the material today, my theme that just is going through my mind is it's incredible to get this audience to begin to think differently. Many of us came with a lot of ideas already, but I think everything that's been shared here with so much detailed technical information and what people can personally do with a group of this size, when we come together, we all start to think differently. And then the outcome of that is so much bigger than what we've achieved only just today. Because all of us will now take these ideas and this information that we heard, and we're going to share it. We're going to start creating positive impact. But when we do that, we share it with others. And even if we all take small actions, what effectively happens after a day like today is we all become a super spreader of this information and this mindset, and this will be, fantastic. And so some quick notes about some of the things I heard today from the different presentations. Valentina, I love the fact that you were wearing green and you talked about your green iPad cover, and I gave myself a cheer for my new green iPad watch band that matches my watch band that matches your iPad cover. So we're in synchronization completely. But, as you talk about what ESG brings to your internal operations for a better environment, it reminds me of some really fascinating things that Evident does. We have these X-ray fluorescence equipment that's also in the spectroscopy field. And there's so much commonality there But some of the things that we're doing, that when I heard you talking, it reminded me to talk about some of the recycling and the reuse that we are implementing using some of our technology. Things like the automotive field that you mentioned. I think about my 2014 vehicle, thinking it's getting pretty old, but now I'm inspired to say, you know what, it's okay that it doesn't have a USB connector or CarPlay. I will survive with just my phone to do all those things. So maybe I keep my car a little bit longer. But the other thing that my big takeaway from what you said is everything is big, even what we do personally, even the small things that we do. I love that phrase, everything is big. It's not just about saving money. That's always helpful. But I think about the fact that, I've completely changed my mindset over the years. And I used to worry about saving money in my own house and turning off lights and conserving gas. But now I'm much more conscious to when I leave a hotel room, I make sure I turn the lights off there, which I didn't do in my earlier years as religiously as I do it now. So it's all the small things. And in the end, everything is big. And I absolutely love that. And I'm going to probably borrow that from you. And Christina, it's clear that you are an educator, tremendous trainer, obviously, based on the way your presentation went today. And you talked about the things made of water bottles, and it made me think about the blankets in my house made of water bottles. But you know what? I don't remember to tell people that the blankets are made of water bottles. And just by talking about it and reminding people of what we have and starting that conversation and making those things conversation starters at the end of the day helps to make sure that the consciousness and the thoughts and the ideas are shared and then grow and become that super spreader mentality, because everything is big. And then Cherie, I want to say congratulations on your company being LEED certified and being, I think you said, the first in Massachusetts, which inspires me to want to be the second in Massachusetts to start a program for that. But the mentality and it's not just about becoming LEED certified. It's about what that changes in the culture of everybody that it touches in the process, and everything that we learn, that we continue to generate more and more good ideas by just having to go through the process of being LEED certified. So I'm very confident that a snowball effect happens when organizations do things, even just the process of getting there. Very much like in the way, so Miriam Lansky, who's one of the people who's in the audience supporting us, she's the one that works for our organization, was mentioned earlier a moment ago. She brought us to this organization, and I'm so grateful to her and everything that she does for our company. But she runs our continuous improvement program. And I'm super confident about the snowball effect, because that's what happened in our continuous improvement program. We had to start with a large team of people to bring all those ideas forward and to bring all of our Lean Sigma practices forward. But then eventually I wasn't sure it was ever going to happen, but it did. Our entire culture changed because of this program. And now, Miriam's able to lead the program, but she has the whole company behind her. So we don't have a dedicated full staff anymore to that, because this has just become the way we think and the way we work. And she basically course corrects us and helps us steer in the right direction. So huge thanks to Miriam. You're just amazing work. But anyway, so further to Christina's conversation with us, or Cherie's conversation with us, she talked about, aligning with your company's values and goals. And I realized, even as president of the organization I'm responsible for, I don't think, I bet you there were members of my team here that didn't raise their hand when she asked that question. And so I definitely took something away from that. And then I want to talk for a moment about the chat with Kim and Carrie Ann. I have to say that I'm old enough that I wasn't brought up with the reduce, reuse, recycle. And so it's been something I've had to completely learn later on. But it's absolutely fantastic progress that we don't have to sort the recycling anymore. And this is the kind of idea and progress that we're making to just make it make a reality out of our ability to do more in sustainability. The water recycling numbers were so impressive on how you manage your buildings. It was very inspiring to think about how so many of us are probably not doing that yet. I know my organization is not doing it as well as you are. And it sounds like it wouldn't be that difficult to implement. So I just feel like there's so much more we need to do. And the ideas that you shared, and talking about IoT, this is something else that I want to share, that's something we're proud of, is that when we started producing IoT solutions for our customers, we actually decided to try it on ourselves first and made our own factory a digital transformation by implementing our own IoT technology in our own factory so that we could actually prove it out and actually talk to our customers about the way we've used it and the way it's helping our digital factory. One of the lessons learned we had that I want to share with you is the fact that when we had a cyber attack about 1 year ago right now, that digital factory has been great, except for the fact that when you go into a cybersecurity problem, sort of it brought us to our knees, which was not something that's negative at all. It was just a way to remind us about some of the things we still need to do as we work into digitization techniques, about how we need to have better recovery systems, better continuity process planning, and things like that. But I just wanted to share that with you because that became such an important thing for us. And then, Ellen, just to conclude with Ellen's workshop, this idea of asking for help, 35 years later into my career, I still have to remind myself to ask for help on a regular basis. And choosing to carve out time, well, I have these 2 cents to give you. Susan Lindsay was just talking about how we were Olympus and now we're Evident. Well, we're going through our company's being sold right now, probably around January 4th, which is super stressful. We're this global organization. We're super busy, and asking for help and choosing to carve out time has become a real need for mental health as a company like ours goes through those kinds of stresses. So I think when we talk about asking for help and carving out time, if you work for a global organization, you might have some of the challenges that we have, which is meetings starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 8 p.m. and maybe carving out time has to take on a new reality. And carving out time means doing it in the middle of your day, going for a bike ride, going for a walk, doing some exercise, taking some time for yourself. We have to now change the way we think about carving out time, not just doing it, but when we have the chance to do it. Maybe it's a non-traditional way, but I think we have to accept that. That's just the world we have now. And then the circles of influence conversation was really, really important when a company like ours is going through so much at the same time. And you say, what can we really affect on everything that's surrounding us and all the issues that we're dealing with? And what I've realized is if you focus on the things you can influence and you can push aside some of the things you cannot. I can't do much about the sale of the company before it's actually done, but it's a huge point of stress. But what we can do is we can still influence our business performance today. We can still focus on the supply chain shortages that we're dealing with now and try to perform at the best we can in R&D and all the functions of the company. And that helps to remove the stress of such a big change like being sold to a new ownership. So I think by focusing on the things you can influence, you actually completely mitigate some of the other stresses on the things that you cannot. So that's my concluding remarks for you all today. It's been wonderful to be here listening to all these amazing conversations. And I'm sorry we're a little bit over time, but I'm so grateful and so honored to be a part. Thank you so much.